Let's get more on this from Michel Collin. He is an investigative journalist who has written extensively about war strategies and the media coverage of military conflicts. So, Mr. Collin, thank you very much for joining us. Firstly, France now says it's going to keep a permanent presence in Mali. Is this a solution?
Well, first, the war is not the solution because the problem of Mali, it's poor. So this gives possibilities for terrorism. And if Mali is poor, it's because of the plundering by French companies. So it's not a solution. But also the real goal of the French presence is not to combat the Islamists. The real goal is about the resources.
So what are the options then to regain stability in the region?
Well, if you want to have stability in the region, first you have to get rid of French interventionism, US interventionism also. You know, you have to ask why they are in this region. You have to consider that Africa has about 30% of all the mineral raw materials, crucial for the economic growth of many countries, especially in China, Brazil, India, and so on. And you have to consider that actually, and the United States are very active in the region with Africa and installing military bases and trying to use local armies in Somalia, in Congo, and in all the area. And then you have to consider that French are trying to keep the privilege of their companies. So there is actually, they don't want that Mali can be autonomous and decide about what will be done with the resources. You have to consider why Mali is so poor, and also the next country, Niger, very important with the uranium, and they are poor because of that kind of neocolonialism of the West. And you have to compare with the growth in Venezuela, in Bolivia, where raw materials are used to end with poverty. So it's a fight actually against Africa and against the possibility of an autonomous Africa.
OK, well, let's just quickly talk. I mean, why do you think France seems to be selective in who it helps in Africa? You may have just answered the question there, but for example, it did refuse to step in to counter rebels in the Central African Republic, didn't it? So do you believe that is purely an economic reason?
Yes, of course. France is supporting every political forces that can be used as puppets, and that's the only goal. You had stability in Ivory Coast, and then France and USA made an intervention to plunge the country in a kind of chaos. And actually, you cannot understand the strategy of France or the USA without understanding that they want to control Mali, Niger, independent countries like Algeria, that they want to prevent a form of unity of Africa, and that they want to prevent a form of alliance between the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and also the African economies. That's actually a war for keeping Africa under colonial rule.
And there also appears to be inconsistencies from the West too. For example, they support Syria's rebels, but are now looking to fight similar factions in Mali, aren't they?
Yes, it's completely hypocritical that you arm and finance and support terrorists in Libya, in Syria, in Caucasus also, and then you pretend to fight against them in Mali and other countries. It's completely hypocritical, like it was in Afghanistan. Actually, it's a strategy of Brzezinski initiated to use the Islamist forces with a very reactionary program as a weapon to combat the real enemies, Russia, China, and the local forces.
OK, we have run out of time there, but thank you very much for your comments and your insight. That's investigative journalist Michel Collin.